was falling.
Regardless of the mandate for NHS workers, it is the professional duty of every NHS worker to get vaccinated. It is a professional duty. There's been a very good response. I think now it's almost 95% of NHS workers that have had at least one jab.
Sajid Javid. Politics, and the former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn says it's disappointing that Labour's ruling body has voted down an attempt to restore him as a party MP. It comes after members of the National Executive Committee introduced a motion to have the parliamentary whip reinstated. The former Labour leader had the whip suspended in October 2020 over his response to a report on Labour's handling of anti-Semitism complaints. Entertainment, and Sir Elton John has tested positive for COVID-19 and is going to have to reschedule some of his shows in the United States. On Instagram, the fully vaccinated 74-year-old musician expressed his disappointment to postpone 2 shows in Dallas, in Texas. He says his symptoms are mild and he fully expects to be back on the Yellow Brick Road this weekend. Oh, sorry, that was my joke. I'll stick to the news. On TV, online and on your radio via DAB+. You're with GB News. Now, headliners.
Thank you, Polly, and hello, everyone. Welcome to Headliners. In just a moment, I'll be introducing you to our guest for this evening. But first, let's take a look at Wednesday's front pages. So, we start with the Daily Mail, a nation that's lost all sense of proportion. I can't read all the type, but I suspect that is getting obsessed about cakes and parties when there is the potential for war to break out on the Ukrainian border. The Telegraph leads with pressure on Johnson. More innuendo to release full grey report. And a picture of Cressida Dick there looking very determined to do what needs to be done. The Guardian has PM's peril. Report looms as police step in over parties and what looks like an extra armoured policeman standing in front of number 10 Downing Street, or possibly one of the moons of Jupiter. The FT runs with Johnson gears up for survival fight as Gray hastens to release findings. That's a slightly, sounds a bit like leavings, doesn't it? Findings, bit of a euphemism. And allies near united front on sanctions to punish Russia if Ukraine invaded. The Independent has now police investigate Downing Street parties. That is the same story appearing on pretty much every page so far. Here they come again. Now here is the bill. And also slurred, Taylor Swift and Damon Albarn having a bit of a Barney on Twitter. We'll be covering that shortly. The Metro there, you've had your parties. The Eye has PM in peril as police called in. PM in peril, that makes it sound a little bit more exciting than it really is at this point. And the Times goes with Johnson faces police interview over parties. All the same story. The Express goes with yes PM, we all want line drawn under Partygate. Putting the word line and Partygate, and I don't know, it just all feels a little bit... That's just the way the mind works. The Daily Star, if they really had a few lines, then I think we would be probably entitled to feel slightly more outraged. But anyway, the Daily Star, Plonker, party investigator, is sent pics of Bozo next to wine bottles at number 10. And when cake bites back, that really would see the PM in peril. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are the headlines. Tonight's guests, we have Steve N. Allen, a man who has had a successful career as a scientist, but the bright lights of comedy were just a little bit too alluring. Steve N. Allen, and also joining us is a man who could have had a successful career. Oh, well, that's Josh Howie. Evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Evening. Good, mate. I like your new glasses.
Thank you.
I feel like I'm looking at the Ghost of Future Past or something.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to look like in another 10 years or so.
Well, your glasses don't necessarily expand with age, but they are the sort of full frame model, these ones, which now I have nothing outside of the like the augmented reality, which is much better.
You're definitely not my father or anything.
No, but I've had, these are the largest spectacles you can get. All glasses I've ever had have created pressure on my temples, and I've been bad-tempered my whole life.
And now you've been released. Look, you're so smiley and you're
absolutely
happy.
Floating like a cloud. How about you, Steve? Are you wearing contacts? Or?
No, I got lasered about 7 years ago.
Did you
That
really?
same problem. It wasn't the problem with the eye, it was the headaches.
It's the headaches from the pressure on the temple. Well, you
it's
can
further
get
around
these.
for me.
Yeah,
It's a different
right.
shape.
Yeah, it's amazing how God put ears there in preparation for the arrival of spectacles, isn't it? We would have been stuffed without those.
Look at you straight away at going for the GBN audience, talking about God.
Yeah. I am very much a creationist when it comes to the usefulness of ears. I just don't see. Everyone always goes for the eye, but I think the ear, the whole... something for a parent to grab hold of when a recalcitrant try. Anyway, we should try and address the news, gentlemen. We have Wednesday's Guardian we're going to start with. About all the papers are reporting the same thing, although they don't all have the same rugged-looking police officer on the front of Downing Street. PM's peril report looms as police step in over parties. I suppose essentially this story is that there's been a small, incremental, but perhaps fundamental elevation of the risk that Johnson now faces of something which he just cannot squirm and evade his way out of. What do you reckon, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, the whole Sue Gray report was likely to just come up with what happened and then had the dealing with it. Who do you turn to? Who's in charge of working out what to do with that report? Boris Johnson. So I didn't think he was going to fire himself. However, with this, when you go to the police, well, if you break a law, there could be, it's not going to be prison time or anything, is it? Let's be honest, what we're talking about is having a drink at the wrong time. Yeah. Maybe it's a fine, but it's really bad for someone's career. I think it's the picture that they had of him near some bottles of wine as well. We've not seen it in the papers. They talk about it.
Yeah.
The day after we heard that drinking red wine could help you not get COVID, I think one of those stories might have been planted to get ahead of this story so that he can just pretend that that was prophylactic.
Well, that's not a bad idea. I mean, that's a milder suggestion than some who've suggested that the whole Ukrainian invasion is being set up as a detour. What a distraction. What do you think?
I mean, what I think is it's ridiculous that it's taken Cressida Dick so long to finally launch an investigation. This information's been out there for a long time. In terms of finding proof, just look at your officer's logs. There it is. That's all you got to do is go, oh, look, suddenly there were 100 people who just randomly turned up on a Tuesday evening.
Yeah.
Like, what were they there for? So the fact that it's sort of happening now just feels very late.
A series of Fleet Street cartoons showing police on the front door, essentially operating as bouncers outside the Ministry of Sound or something, just sort of going, we're a bit full. Have you tried the club down the road, this night? It is extraordinary of all the premises where you can't conceal that sort of activity. It's fairly obvious.
But, I mean, part of me, I don't want to get conspiracy theory-ish, but because you can't reveal certain parts of that report, the Sue Gray's report, and because they're under active police investigation.
Yeah.
I mean, could that be in itself like a bit of a delaying tactic? I'm just appealing to the GBN
Cressida Dick has
audience.
had such a checkered career, which isn't necessarily a pun on the strap that she has on her hat, although, as I say, it occurs to me. But she's had some troubles of her own, hasn't she, over the years? There is this slight suggestion that she soft pedals with this government, in a tit-for-tat relationship. Is that going too far? Is there a sense?
Because they don't seem to need the police investigation to use the excuse of, I can't answer your question because there's a mild investigation going on. It's almost because we're so used to the idea that if someone's been arrested, you can't say anything. If it's trial by jury, you can't say anything. Somehow that trickles down to be an excuse, even though what they're saying is, well, I couldn't possibly answer that question. I might help the investigation prove that I did something.
Also, they're hungover. And no one wants to be involved.
No, that's
bottles
true.
of wine.
But anyone will recognise there is that kind of attempt. If you have any opportunity, if people are angry about something and you go, well, let's just park that for the moment, because you just hope that the anger will evaporate, don't you? That's essentially what will happen. And then when no new facts emerge, but you just feel a bit less cross about it, even if you have a Twitter spat with somebody.
You're describing my marriage.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was like.
Let's just look. I'm going to go out. I'm going to go do GB News. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Hopefully it's gone.
Do you ever suffer from, it's a slightly different calculation, do you ever suffer from, I think it's called buyer's remorse?
With my wife?
With just any sort of any big ticket purchase. But if you ever spend a lot of money, as we emerged out of lockdown, I felt I hadn't bought anything I really wanted for a while. I spent quite a lot of money on a camera. I really didn't need this camera. I sort of came up with some justifications for it. By the time it arrived, I was already feeling guilty about it, And I just think if you can delay those kind of things, you always have that, anything you put in the shopping basket online and just think, I'm going to leave that there for a couple of days and see how I feel about it when I next look at it.
Right, write a letter to
9
Amazon,
times out of 10,
post it.
exactly. You never. And I just kind of think that's what he's trying to do with this. He's basically got, I'm just going to pop that in the basket. And then we'll go delay for later. I don't know. We will see anyway soon. Wednesday's Mail, meanwhile, has more troubling developments in Russia as Putin is taunting the West with military displays. Military displays, Josh? What is he doing?
It's not like that's a new thing for Russia to do. Russia, for the first time, is taking photos of its army. But it is a slightly confusing cover from the Daily Mail because it is, it's photos of someone of shooting and missiles, whatever, and it's like a nation that's lost all sense of proportion. And I thought, they're talking about Russia's sort of excuses for invasion. Oh no, but they're talking about the UK.
Yeah.
This cover story really has nothing to do with those photos and have with what's actually going on in the UK.
This is what you're saying is that the Tories are essentially saying you don't really want to be focusing on Partygate at the moment because there's
this whole other thing going on. It is scary. It's scary. One of the reasons it's scary, of course, is for gas prices, which are already have gone through the roof, and there are concerns about what this means. Would they go even higher? This is why America's now going to intervene and to try and sort of if Russia does go to war and cuts off the supplies.
Yeah.
The funny thing
is that where we get our gas from?
Well, we don't.
It's
we get
Germans,
it from Norway. A lot from Norway.
Yeah.
We still get some, obviously, from the Northfields and.
My dad used to be convinced we were getting French gas, and it was coming out more slowly as a result. He was quite remember that, didn't he? That was in the 70s, and there was some sort of somebody switched. This was before you could just ring up and switch suppliers, which I still think that's an extraordinary layer of confusion and deception put on top of all of this, isn't it? Where you kind of go, well, our gas is Scottish gas or EDF or something.
Well, the good thing, I think we're lucky that they don't sell gas at petrol stations.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, and I wonder if someone somewhere has just put on their gas, like, I'm just saving, I'm hoarding some gas, just lock their kitchen and just put on the gas to keep it.
But prices are going higher. What do you think?
One of the articles talks about it in the Telegraph, and they go into the price structure and how it's got. Well, even before we have a war, they've said the threat of a war has made the price go up. Come on, markets, calm down. They always talk about the markets get spooked. Someone needs to give some drugs to these markets. They're costing us some money. And they quote the money in how much gas costs in terms of cubic metres. I'm all over that. But then in terms of pounds per therm.
Pounds per
That's
therm.
a really useful thing.
That's if you take some gas into work in your flask.
The idea that you'd sit around going, hey, up, love, should we pop Eton and have a therm's worth of gas?
Just a couple of therms for me, love. I've got my thick socks on tonight. What is it when the markets get spooked and prices shoot up? There's always that kind of how to play the markets in that sense. You always say sell on the rumour, buy on the fact, because markets panic before anything's happened. So you sell at that point, knowing that, and then you buy in because you know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying? You can't really do that as a homeowner, though, can you? I mean, unless you've got a massive gas tank, I suppose, in the garden.
I think what everybody's really hoping for is that we don't have a terrible bit of winter coming our way.
Yeah,
that's it. It's just.
Do you not think we're in winter at the moment?
It gets but I mean it gets bad, like proper winter.
Right.
It's been pretty mild.
Do you think it could be 1760 and skating on the Thames again to keep everyone warm and cheerful? Now, finally, onto a story I understand. Front cover of Wednesday's Metro has Taylor Swift and Damon Albarn crossing swords over accusations that Taylor does not write her own songs. Who's got this one?
Yeah, it's me, and I'm sad about this. I was a child of Britpop growing up, so I normally would be Team Damon on this one.
Yeah.
He messed up. He was interviewed by the LA Times. They spoke of Taylor Swift being a great songwriter, and he dismissively said something like, she doesn't write her own songs.
Yeah.
Somehow that got back to her.
Yeah.
The rumour mill all over this place.
Yeah.
And she does.
She probably employs somebody to name search for her on Twitter, I bet.
I think you can actually get, I think it gets emailed to you. You can set up a Google alert. It's fine.
Yeah.
So what happened was she then did a tweet, and it was quite harsh, saying that I was a fan of yours up until now. She points out that she writes music, and then there's a little extra tweet underneath. I can't remember what they call it, tagging it or threading it, I think.
Yeah.
And she just says, oh, by the way, I wrote this tweet to, oh, what a great
Stinger,
burn.
yeah.
So she's...
But what is
got
your
bad
view?
blood.
Do you think she does? Because there is some sort of dispute. You were saying, Josh, there's a little bit of
first of all,
controversy over songwriting credits.
I think that was a funny tweet. I got a question whether she actually even wrote that tweet.
Yeah.
Gosh, she's going to tweet you about that.
I know.
Haters going to hate.
Hey. Oh, mate, look
She's
at you.
she's
Look at you
supposed
down
to
with the
shake
kids.
it off, isn't she? And instead, she seems to be putting up her bust.
There was a court case about those lyrics.
Right.
About someone else. Someone claimed that she was plagiarising their...
They're shaking Stevens.
but it's so
does
good.
It sound like Outkast. I always thought it reminded me a lot of Outkast.
Mate, you are down.
Yeah.
Look at you, mate.
You know how the only place I hear songs like that is when people are walking up to accept awards that I've been paid to. The UK tiling industry is handing out the best bathroom.
Yeah.
And they're thinking chicken up. That's where I hear most of those sort of songs.
That little dance there, by the way, will be used in a meme.
You know that one, Firework, Katy Perry, all of those songs I have completely in my head the whole time.
30 seconds long.
But I do think she strikes me as kind of talented, Taylor Swift. But that is purely what she exudes. What goes on behind locked doors? Who actually puts down? Who creates these things?
I think she does co-write these songs, but there's a documentary. My wife, I hope she's not watching this because we actually argued. We had the biggest argument we've had in the last 5 years is about this Taylor Swift.
It's about the Taylor Swift shrine in your bedroom.
Yeah, no, she's obsessed with Taylor Swift. She watched this documentary. She's like, oh my God, she's the strongest woman, and she's really inspiring. And
Is she the strongest woman as
well?
well?
I don't think she is the strongest woman. No, but I was just like,
at least we should be able to measure.
but my point was she's showing you what she wants you to see. We don't know what she's really like.
No.
She had directorial control over
She's very
this
good at image manipulation.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
She was in trouble a few years ago for refusing to come out sufficiently against Donald Trump. I remember that. And she basically kept her powder dry on that. She did eventually.
But then she
join
did
with the rest of Hollywood. But
and then she got criticised again.
Because there was an idea that she still had a slightly country and western fan base from her origin story. I think was kind of gingham and denim, and there was a suspicion that she didn't want to alienate the old boys, the good old boys, never doing no harm, who were in their Confederate vehicles. But Damon Albarn, I did read a couple of the paragraphs just trying to get into it, is a big fan of Billie Eilish, apparently. So he's not like just some misogynist old white bloke who doesn't think birds write their own songs. He is he just wants to put credit where it's due.
But I think he also falls foul of the thing that if someone seems like they're singing about being miserable, you think it is creatively worth more.
That is and you think it's more authentic as well. Yeah, it's very much like the romantic poets, the ones who went, oh, what a lovely day, and the bluebird is on the wing, immediately disparaged.
Yeah, didn't write that.
No.
He co-wrote it. He co-wrote it.
Well, anyway, none of it will do Taylor Swift any harm, I dare say. Damon Albarn, to his credit, he was talking about the 25th anniversary of Blur. And he says he's not interested in that. He doesn't want to see any reissues. He doesn't want to celebrate what they did. He says the job of the artist is constantly to be clearing the weeds, the undergrowth, of previous achievements from the garden, so that you can start fresh. And on that front, I mean, I'm inclined to actually say good luck to him.
Well, I've been doing some same jokes for 20 years, so I'm actually perfectly happy to give me that.
All you need to do now is slag off Catherine Ryan for not writing her own material,
God,
you and Damon are birds of a feather.
That is someone I wouldn't mess with.
Anyway, we're coming to the end of part one, which means it's time for an ad break. The following people are paying for this channel. Please buy their goods and services out of sheer gratitude. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Simon Evans, and with me are fellow Brit poppers Josh Howie and Steve N. Allen. So, gentlemen, the Metropolitan Police have made the headlines again, once again, for all the wrong reasons. Josh?
Yes, so it's great. I remember first reading about this 10 years ago. Kate Wilson saw a photo of someone and said, "Look, that's my ex-boyfriend," and then realised that he was a policeman.
Right.
And he'd gone undercover and was investigated. There was a special unit investigating like far-left organisations and environmentalists. And one of the things that they did, one of the tactics they used was
Which one of them is he there? Is there...
He's
Hang on,
he's
that's
changed a
my
lot.
boyfriend. No.
Yeah. It's good to see that she's still fighting the fight. And
Yeah.
so that was one of their tactics, was to get a girlfriend, and then that sort of would allow them access to those organisations. She's been fighting now for 10 years. She's just won £229,000, rightly so. That's not bad for a year and a half relationship.
No.
But it must have been horrible to just go. I mean, to be fair,
As gold digging goes, it's a high-risk strategy,
That's a bit- yeah.
isn't it? It's a big double bluff.
and most men do lie.
Yeah.
I don't want to generalise about
I mean,
all.
being
you know,
serious
but-
about it, not. I mean, and one should, of course, but one is torn on this one. But is it not technically rape?
It's
to
deceit, isn't it?
Yes, it's a quite fundamental deceit, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I don't know what. I mean, it's not.
But you
forced,
must have lied to a degree. I mean, you lie about liking certain things.
Yeah.
I hate the police. I am a policeman.
It's the kind of Tinder profile level of lying, isn't it?
Yeah, on my age.
Yeah.
I have hair.
I
would know.
love cats. Love cats. Absolutely. What about you, Steve? Have you fibbed your way into bed before?
Are you
Never at all.
Are you a policeman? You're not undercover here investigating.
He's an undercover
tell you more, it's
left-wing
premise.
comedian. This is what half of this panellist are being regularly shown.
I do. I think it's a terrible thing, not only for all the things that everyone knows and all the things we can talk about, but also, so he was a policeman. I was paying his wage through tax, paying for him to go and get some happy bedroom time. That is, we don't get to do that at work.
It's really weird, though, isn't it? Because I wonder how deep undercover he went. Do you think he sort of just was it like method acting?
Pretty deep undercover.
But seriously, is he like mentally adapting himself so much to the environment that is he acting all the way? I mean, I've read porn stars talk about this. Once the sex starts.
You read porn stars?
Yeah.
You sure? Okay, it's reading. It was the reading.
No, it's the reading talking about it afterwards. Because you watch the show and then afterwards there's the director's, there's a bit like when you watch Attenborough and at the end of you've watched the Snow
spying on me.
And then there's the bit where they talk to the film crew and they kind of go, how did you, No, but seriously, porn stars say that once the sex starts, you're not really acting, or at least, it gets going and you get started. I'm just wondering if it's the same kind of mentality. Is he throughout that whole thing, is he actually acting or is he...
I don't know. And was
he actually in love with
And was he also in a relationship with somebody else at the same time? Like Donnie Brasco, and he comes back to his wife and he's like, you don't know what it's like being undercover.
Yeah.
The smell of patchouli oil and whatever.
If it was a half-decent movie, he would fall in love with her and not with his wife, and that would be a much more interesting character arc, but I expect by the sound of it was much...
Well, look, I just hope that this policeman doesn't try and follow her on Facebook.
What's our next one? We have got Wednesday's independent welfare payments aren't keeping up with the rise in living costs.
Yeah, I mean, this is
with you as
this
well,
is properly
Josh.
serious. Obviously, gas prices are going up. heating bills, food prices are going up, and the one thing that's not going up is benefits.
Right.
And families and people who are unemployment benefit are really going to be in trouble, and it's scary.
Are they not going up because they're not acting quickly enough? Or
They're not putting it up because inflation's going up so much as well.
Right. Yeah.
They're not going up to that level. And we could be in a real problem where people have to decide between food and heat.
Yeah.
And the government needs to step in and actually do something to help the most vulnerable in our society.
That sounds like
That's
a
what I
pretty
think.
solidly left-wing point of view.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Look,
I'm kidding. It does seem reasonable. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, well, the idea of it's not a safety net if it doesn't stop you hitting the ground. There's no point having a welfare system if we'll give you enough money so that you slowly go under.
Yeah.
No, it's not. You need to be giving people enough to get the basics.
You should have a safety trampoline, shouldn't you, that bounces you straight back up there again. That would be a much more effective. But I suppose part of the difficulty, obviously one part of the difficulty is that we're coming out of a pandemic where all kinds of extreme financial pressures have been put on the state at large.
Yeah, except they can write off $4 billion.
Yeah, we're not used to inflation, are we? I mean, It's been a very long time. I remember it from my childhood, but literally childhood. And people have been warning about it for a few years now, and it's not entirely clear what's caused it. Some people, of course, will say Brexit. I think it is fairly obvious that energy prices are a major part of it, and that seems to be quite a complex situation. There is the supply chain issue, part of which came from blocking up the Suez Canal with that floater just over a year ago. Yeah. But there are other issues as well. Obviously, quantitative easing and the endless money printing, even in America, and these sort of things go around the world. We may be entering an entirely new economic system. It's going to be very interesting times.
But then on that, I would say, if the main driving force is inflation, which means each pound becomes worth less, it actually means you should be increasing benefits by inflation because you're not paying them more.
No.
It's not saying, they need to be paid more. It is, but the language is incorrect then, isn't it? The value.
Well, if you say we pay you 3 loaves of bread a week, for instance, absolutely. I mean, they should probably be measured in gold. Dominic, my co-host, would go to that and just say that's how you really measure the price of things is in terms of precious metals, because they don't lie. But the capacity of the government to adapt to these things very quickly is notoriously.
With what's going on at the moment, and they're just trying to fight for their own skins.
Yeah.
They need to step in now and do something.
Well, thankfully, food banks have become an absolutely, I wish I'd got in on those on the ground floor. I mean, I tell you, they have become a massive success story in the last couple of years. So I guess they're just going to keep growing and growing, right?
Yeah, but they shouldn't. I mean, we shouldn't need food banks. We shouldn't be a society that requires it. The thing is that's upsetting is that there's a narrative of sort of people leeching off the government and whatever, when the reality is it's very easy, if not more so, becoming more so, to just fall, to lose your job and if you're living precariously anyway, it doesn't take much to tip you over.
No.
And that's why the safety net exists. And it's not a huge amount of money. And when you do compare it to the $4 billion that's just written off, it exists. If you're going to have a safety net, have a safety net.
Wednesday's Telegraph has a story about racism in cricket. I don't know whether there are any nets involved. I'm going to make a smooth segue, but racism in cricket. This is becoming a tiresomely familiar proposition as well.
Yeah, back again. Middlesex chairman facing a backlash over outdated claims that black people don't like cricket, they like football. And
I don't like cricket.
He was actually white, wasn't he, funny enough, that chap in 10cc? I only realised that quite recently.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That was quite the tangent that I was.
Sorry.
But these, so Mike O'Farrell's comments were immediately likened to the career-ending words of former FA chairman Greg Clark, who was also speaking at the same committee.
What did he say?
Years ago. The Greg Clark one was to say that the South Asian people choose careers in IT over sport in 2020, he said.
Oh, OK.
I'm wondering if this committee is doing this deliberately, like putting on a few repeats of...
So is Mike O'Farrell, is he talking about people looking... Does he, putting aside whether it's inappropriate or inaccurate or whatever, is he saying that young black men choose to play football rather than play cricket, or is he choose what they choose to go and watch and
I think he's more like talking about the play. They want to get more ethnically diverse cricket players. And
I see.
I think that's
and they're struggling to encourage young black men to play.
The quote is that young black players prefer football and South Asian communities prioritise education. That was the quote. Now, part of this I struggle with because I don't like cricket at all.
No.
So I'm in favour of prioritising education. I can't. If there's a sport that you improve it by making less of it, just do the maths, extrapolate that. When no one likes 5 days, do 2020. We'll do none and see how that pans out.
I mean, I haven't read into this, but I am instinctively troubled by the idea that an old man might be trying to express a basic reality and has maybe done it slightly clumsily. But if the fact is that more black kids do want to play football than play cricket, and more Asian kids do want to play more cricket, why is that anyone's business but theirs?
I don't know if he's gone out and actually done the proper research on that. He's formed an opinion. And I think if ever you've got one sentence that there's not even a comma in that sentence, you have two sweeping statements about huge communities, then maybe you can notice the lack of nuance that should be.
But he might be getting frustrated with people going, why haven't you recruited more young black players? And he might simply have said, why don't you ask, like the football clubs, why they haven't recruited more South Asian players? This tends to be a cultural thing. We both know that Pakistan and India are absolutely crazy about cricket, right? And that's like a legacy of colonialism or whatever, fine. I mean, it might be problematic if you want to go down that route, but that is the reality we live with now, and that is a family history and a legacy that many families will bring with them. I don't know a lot of black players, young kids, will see an extraordinary number of very, very eminent what's the word?
Role model.
Role models, yeah, in not role-playing, actually playing football. It's not a role-play thing. Yeah, I mean, they have very, very high profile, half the England side.
But I bet the idea of dressing up as footballers from the past and recreating games, if they've not done it, we should.
Well, that could be a way of doing it, like the sealed knot for the '66 World Cup. Yeah.
I like how he, the thing that hasn't been really picked up on is he also said that part of the problem is, and he said part of it is because it's a more time-consuming sport than some others, which is a wonderful euphemism for just saying it's boring.
Yep.
Yeah, it is time-consuming, but you do get sandwiches, so it's given.
What are you saying? You're saying that people of Pakistani origin don't like sandwiches? Come on, Simon.
Maybe
Jeez Louise.
a little more diversity in the buffet, and let's just see if that takes effect. Disney are remaking Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and Peter Dinklage is not happy. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist that. He's not happy, though, is he? He really isn't, with a capital H or without.
Well, he doesn't seem very happy anyway. I mean, maybe that's just the characters that he portrays. I'm going to really try hard to resist a grumpy joke.
Go for it.
But he
looks happy.
I mean, is he happy? Oh, there he is. Yeah. Oh, you know what? There he is happy. He's a really good actor. Like, he was great in Game of Thrones. He's great. Yeah. But he's great in it. Serenity, which is a film that's just out at the moment. But yeah, he says he criticises Disney for a backwards remake of Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, which is also a bit offensive to backwards people.
You can't
really?
Say
I mean,
that, Josh.
Well, he's the one who said it. That's what I'm saying.
I would say a backwards remake is one where she is killed by a kiss, revived by some dwarves.
I don't know what
coughs up a bit of apple and goes to live in a castle.
I don't know what he says that because they've updated. They've got a Latina actress now as Snow White.
Right. Latinx.
Yeah. And so what? I don't really know how they're.
Is she Snow White then, or why is she called? She's not going to be Snow White because I mean that is a name that it does reek of white supremacy. I realise, but that is her name, Snow White. She's called that because she's.
You know what? You've just found a massive plot hole.
Is that not her surname?
No, Mrs. Snow White.
Snow White.
Jane Snow White.
But I think he's sort of saying that there's a stereotype. He's talking about the stereotypes being reinforced. Yeah. But I'm not aware of is there really any stereotypes of little people living in groups of 7 in caves?
I mean, I suppose the thing is, the problem with it is, well, I mean, God knows, I should height-splain this to Dinklage. I mean, I'm sure he has his own views and this hasn't eluded him entirely. But there are two different kinds of dwarf, aren't there? There's the word dwarfism, which is used to describe a number of conditions which can prevent an actual human being from achieving, the full height, which is considered normal. And then there is a kind of semi-magical creature who appears in children's stories, who are part of a community where everyone is that height, and there's nothing weird or kind of it's not a medical condition. It's simply a sort of subspecies, a little bit like elf and goblin and orc and so on. Yeah, and these are that kind of dwarf, right?
Yeah.
Is that? I mean, is that fair, Steve? You're
know,
giving me that
yeah.
look like when I defended the cricket man.
I think he just doesn't want to get involved because he's afraid he's going to get...
Yeah, I'm 6'2". I'm not going to win this argument.
Yeah.
No, I really see his point because it's about hypocrisy. That if you're spending all your time going, look at our progressive casting, how progressive this film, and they've done something that's not progressive. So I think at the very least we can agree.
So what would be the progressive thing? Not to remake Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and to say essentially this is no longer an acceptable text.
Six dwarfs.
It's gone the same way as the protocols of the Elders of Zion.
That might not be the variable.
Make Snow White a dwarf.
People are varying, like just a collection of
well, to answer the question,
flip it over.
Yeah.
That's what you should have. Like Snow White's a dwarf, and then there's like and the 7 tall white women.
We have to go to a break now. I think we should have a chat about this.
Okay, we'll write
and when you come back, folks, we will have an alternative that will hopefully pass the Dinklage test. Meantime, here come some more sponsors. Thank you.
Hello again. With the notable exception of eastern Scotland, much of the UK has been cloudy. And again, on the cold side on Tuesday, a few cloud breaks, though, will increasingly affect central areas overnight, leading to some frost and fog patches. But for most, it's staying mostly quiet, I think, on Tuesday night, heading into Wednesday. These weather fronts bringing some outbreaks of rain into the north. And those outbreaks of rain mostly on the light side. But behind the fronts, actually a few cloud breaks affecting parts of eastern England, northern and eastern Scotland as well. Staying blustery in the far north with showers moving through the Northern Isles. Otherwise, for the vast majority, it's light winds and it's cloudy overnight with temperatures dropping into the low single figures. But where we do see those cloud breaks, particularly eastern parts of England into the Midlands, perhaps some parts of southern England as well, a touch of frost and a few fog patches first thing Wednesday. They'll soon lift. And then, actually, for England and Wales, it's looking like a brighter day. There'll be a better chance of higher cloud bases and some cloud breaks as well. As a result, temperatures are looking a little bit higher, closer to average. But for Scotland and Northern Ireland, the cloud picks up here and we'll see wet and windy weather arrive by the end of the day. Gales for northern Scotland, 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts for exposed parts of the mainland of northern Scotland. Rain pushes south overnight into the early hours of Thursday. The rain peters out by the time it reaches central parts, but enough of a breeze for many, enough cloud as well to prevent things from turning frosty or foggy by dawn on Thursday. Nevertheless, a grey start on Thursday for the south with some patchy outbreaks of generally light rain and drizzle moving through. Then brighter skies follow from the north, a brisk northwesterly breeze, gales in the northeast first thing, and some showers falling as hail around northern coasts and snow over the Scottish mountains. But brighter skies for many on Thursday before more cloud returns on Friday.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners for our third and final part. I'm Simon Evans, and joining me are Josh Howie and Steve N. Allen. And we have agreed during the break that the most damaging stereotype seen in most Disney adaptations of old Grimm Brothers fairy tales is that of the evil stepmother, not the person of reduced stature. But there is a terrible amount of damage, I think, done to the potential for families to regroup around new formations by the cloud of disrepute that hovers over these poor women. So I think get rid of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and all the rest of them, Cinderella, the whole lot. And let's apart from Drag Queen Story Hour, those are particularly good when you've got stories like that, of course.
Mate, I've got a 5-year-old girl at home. Those movies are on rotation.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
But never mind the fire hazard of the dresses that they like to wear when they're play acting those stories as well. Has your kid got the Disney dresses?
Mate, we got everything Disney. Yeah. She's just dressing up and down.
You're making a rod for your own back.
I know, anyway, I have no choice.
First story of the third part is Neil Young versus Joe Rogan, which surprised me, I'll be honest with you. I saw them as pretty much, two iterations of counterculture heroes, but apparently Neil is not happy. This is you, Josh.
Yeah, this is in the Times, and Neil Young is threatening to quit Spotify because of Joe Rogan's various vaccine claims.
Yeah.
And so
I tell you what, you know which one you back in a fight looking at that picture.
It wouldn't be that close. Every time I sit next to Steve, I go into Steve and I can't not do your accent. I'm like, hey, it would come close. So he wrote, sorry mate, but the point is he wrote a letter on his website that said they can have Rogan
wearing his hat there. Sorry, that was just the camera angle there.
They can have Rogan or Young. Yeah, sorry, let me just arrange myself. I'm not bald anymore. Hey!
Dreadlock holiday again.
And anyway, so they can have Rogan or Young, not both. I should point out Rogan has signed a $100 million deal in 2020, giving Spotify exclusive rights. Has an estimated 11 million listeners per episode. Young has 6 million monthly listeners. So if it's between Rogan or Young, they're going Rogan.
They're going Rogan, and he's the man of the hour, isn't he? But it would be a shame if I think the threat has been withdrawn partly, I believe, because Neil Young doesn't actually own his own catalogue anymore anyway.
Really? It's one of those
things. He sold it all about several years.
The letter has gone from his website.
Yeah,
and the music is still on.
I think that may be the humiliation he's realised. But I feel a bit sorry for him. But at the same time, he was a guy who used to question things a little bit more. I understand that these are extraordinary times. I don't know. What do you think, Steve? Does this seem like a betrayal? Do you have any fondness for Neil?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, Neil Young. Out of the two of them, I mean, I'm a sciencey, vaccine-y type person. So I'd say that for all the listeners that Joe Rogan gets, 270 health experts, including professors, accuse Rogan of spreading COVID misinformation. But then, again, for balance, Neil Young hasn't been forever in blue jeans, so they both lie.
That's Neil Diamond.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm going to have to cut your mic there.
God.
Sorry, you're
Get him out of the studio.
Wrong Neil.
This is the gunge moment that falls into my head.
I would say
that was the song I proposed to. That was playing in the restaurant, in the revolving tower, at the revolving restaurant at the top of Auckland Tower when I whipped out the ring. That's a hell of a way to... I always said Neil Diamond was on that, and he is the ideal troubadour to propose to because his name is in itself a short list of instructions for how to propose. Neil Diamond, right?
But if Young were in charge of his back catalogue, then he should be able to do this. All the people would be angry about this. This is a...
But this is, Joe Rogan, one of his main threads is whether or not Jesus was a mushroom, You know that idea? That Jesus, the whole idea was, that most of the ancient religious rites were were based in psilocybin ceremony, of that hallucinogens were the mysteries of the ancient Greeks and the breaking of bread and all of that kind of stuff. So, anyone who's still taking him seriously, I do feel annoyed, though, because I read about this in the Times, and they, again, are repeating essentially, that's misinformation in itself, that ivermectin is a horse dewormer. It's saved millions of lives. It's one of the world's most established human medicines. And the presentation of it, I know it may or may not be any use in terms of coronavirus, but there is a lot of misinformation that comes from the other side in order to
push their narrative.
Undermine it, which is annoying. You wish there was one place where there was a rock you could stand on and trust it.
I think that the horse thing was mentioned more because the source people were going to in America was not buying the human-approved version that is used to treat things in humans.
Right.
They were getting...
I mean, Joe definitely got the human stuff, and there was all that crap about, people's horses are dying because the vets have run out of horse to... Absolute nonsense. Anyway, I am Team Joe Rogan on that very entertaining show. I base my entire media personality on Joe Rogan these days, and I have cast my Neil Young
the top of your head.
That's right. The cage fighting, the whole lot, the elk shooting, the moving to Texas would be nice. Anyway, Wednesday's Daily Star is about a real-life crazy cat lady.
Yeah, we are going to hit up against that cliche, that stereotype with this one. Cat protections boss quits after row about keeping 18 cats inside a 3-bed home. I don't know how many bedrooms cats need per cat. I mean, to be fair...
6 per bedroom does feel a bit cat-heavy, I must admit.
Cats are always on a shelf. If you put some jeans down, they're lying on that. If you open up a bag, 3 of them will get in. So I think they're quite compact.
And then you close the bag and take a short drive.
That's not the story.
Is that your Christmas, was it?
Wowzers. But, so this chairman of the Cats Protection, Linda Upson, has said that she's stepping down to spend time with the cats, I imagine.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the problem
What is the problem? That she's protecting these cats too much on a person, she's got involved. Is that the issue?
No, it's too many cats in the space.
But is there a legal limit? There's no legal limit.
There's no legal limit, but there are DEFRA guidelines. So for us, mere non-cat protection people, we might have to not worry about this as much. But you can't be in charge of cat protection and not stick to the
Which initial DEFRA is? The fisheries, something, and
Department
agriculture?
Of Rural, the Arts Rural. I mean, none of it looked particularly
You're not allowed to
catty
grow cats in that kind of concentration.
But then she says that they've all got their own food bowls and litter trays. I don't even have my own... Well, I don't have a litter tray, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do. Not only that, have a gender-neutral toilet, let alone...
And she says they've got... And resources. Like, what resources do they...
Well, you have that sort of
they all got their own
stick with its feather on the end, laser pen.
Small ISA.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine.
Maybe they all go out in the town like Tom. You remember in Tom and Jerry, his friends, the hoodlums that he'd call in occasionally if he needed some muscle?
Yeah.
You know, the stray cats. You don't see cats like that enough. Cats are always like on their own. I always want to see a gang of
All you want to do is just appeal to the GBN audience.
Top cat.
Just
indisputable top cat.
Cartoons. Brilliant.
Modern life has been such a letdown. Scooby-Doo is more accurate than Top Cat. This next story is from Wednesday's Mail, and it's rather a difficult one. Even by discussing it, we're breaking the first 2 rules.
Well, exactly. And also because it's about China, and I still haven't got to the bottom of who funds...
China?
This channel. So I don't know how...
China is self-funding.
Do you think... No, but who funds this channel? So I still don't know if I'm...
Very wealthy gentleman.
From China?
That's all you need to know.
OK. I don't want to go too heavy in on criticising China, because I like this job.
Let's upgrade our stools before we start knocking the back at, shall we?
What they are doing is Fight Club, brilliant movie.
Yeah, great movie. Amazing
with
book
Brad Pitt and Edward Norton. They got to the end, they put it on...
And Meatloaf,
he was fantastic in it. Yeah. And then they get to the end of the movie. This is when it started streaming in China recently. And they get to the end, and what happened... I am going to ruin it.
Yeah.
Buildings blow up, and he turns out he was... Anyway, they put up a sort of... Before the buildings blow up, they just put up a sort of... a black screen, and then they just wrote... the police rapidly figured out the whole plan and arrested all the criminals, successfully preventing the bomb. Because they don't want to show the anarchists winning.
Right.
So that's why they did it.
They don't mind them melting down the human flesh into soap or something?
Yeah, all of that stuff's totally cool. That's what they do in... with the week... Anyway. But it's... and I'm just wondering what other movies they're sort of cutting the end... If it was sort of the end of Sixth Sense, and then just before he reveals his thing, it just sort of puts up a little thing saying, Bruce Willis cured the boy and moved back in with his wife.
Oh,
that would be a much better, much nicer ending.
But they are actually quite comfortable in China traditionally with living with the ghosts of their ancestors. So the Sixth Sense might not be remotely as unsettling.
You've just given away the ending!
After 20 years. I remember going to see that movie. I never understood I never get, like The Usual Suspects. I saw it twice and I was still shocked the second time, you know, when Spacey sort of shakes off that limp. But the Sixth Sense I got immediately. As soon as I saw him sitting on the bench after he'd been shot, I knew he was a ghost. I don't know why. I think it's because I'd seen a movie called Wings of Desire, which was Wim Wenders' movie where there are some angels that come down and hang around in Berlin and no one can see them, but they kind of like prevent people.
And you feel like the angels told you the ending.
Just something about there was a similar vibe.
When you said Wings of Desire, I thought you were talking about some of those earlier pornographical films.
You
all the way to the narrative at the end.
That you like to read.
Wings of Desire could be a new feature on a... No, I'm not going to know that. Online trolls have been their awful selves. Once again, this is from Wednesday's Times, Steve. I don't know who's been getting trolled.
Yeah, it's some proud father, Mark Pugsley, posted a picture of his son playing rugby to the internet, to Facebook, and
there he is.
People said horrible things because
that's
people
not
are
his
horrible.
dad, though. That's Brian Moore, right?
Yes.
Well-known England
That's the surprise ending that they edit out of the Chinese version of this show. So he posted it on the internet and they said nasty things about the kid's size.
Yeah.
Because people are horrible and the internet speeds that up, facilitates it.
It does.
So he took that picture down and then tweeted about the hate of it.
Yeah.
Which felt very much like trying to chase people to make sure everyone saw this thing. It's part of this. I love the positive message, but at the same time, it feels like this.
And here he is now on a TV show. I know what you mean. It's a tricky one, isn't it? But on the other hand, presumably has he reinforced the kid's determination not to be bullied by these people?
Actually, in this story, we don't hear from the kid. You hear from the dad an awful lot. And hopefully all of these words are trickling down as they should. But, you know, I'm thinking about this from the point of view of the kid. I'd probably want to keep a low profile and not be the one who's famous in being in the Times because of how big you are.
There is, I mean, Brian Moore seems to have stepped up well here, though, because he's a bit chubby himself, isn't he? And so he's actually quite a good spokesman for, you know, the fact that you can be a stockier build and still accomplish at the highest level.
But, Robbie Fowler, though, I'm a bit worried might have been taking the mickey because the former Liverpool and England footballer messaged to say that social media channels are full of nuggets and then tells his son to keep loving it, which is, of course, the...
Is that McDonald's nugget? He's basically accusing him of being a bit too fond of it.
I know, I'm not saying anything, but that could be an interpretation.
Watch this space. I think if I was going to go, I would probably have aimed my barbs at the lad with the Mohican in the background there.
That's just jealousy, mate.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Just looking at,
I think the moral of the
12-year-old boy.
The moral of the story isn't which child.
There's one over there with terrible posture. They're quite a bunch, aren't they? Anyway, good lad. Hope he pulls out of this. Nosedive. Britain's smallest garden has been discovered. It's not a competition. It's just a side effect of an inflated housing market, it seems, Josh. Is that
right? As someone without a garden and 5 kids in a flat, I'd kill for this garden.
Smallest garden is a
smallest. It's a very. I don't know if we've got a photo of it, but they've described it as a private, compact courtyard garden. And I have seen a photo somewhere, and it's basically
3 foot by 3.
Yeah, it's
that's about the size of this table,
bit of wood. Yeah, and it's just.
How can that be a garden? It's not a garden.
There it is there.
Oh, there it is.
And this is in Sheffield.
Wow.
That's the best view in Sheffield.
Can't help wondering, I mean, presumably the whole house is wider than that at some point. So somebody has shafted them, haven't they? Somebody has taken a bit of their garden on either side. Somebody has flogged it. I remember my father-in-law, before I met him, they had quite a nice house in the country and he sold half of his garden and as you know, to builders. They put a house on it and that's how he put his daughters through private school. As a result, which has created all kinds of ramifications in our marriage that I've never been able to live up to in terms of the sacrifices. I think something's gone on there. I think they've sold a couple of feet at the back garden, possibly in order to buy a curry or something. I don't know what you would get for like the 3 feet on either side.
But it's a 1-bedroom house, but it's on 3 floors. I don't know how can it be 1 bedroom on 3 floors? I don't know how.
Half the bed's on the top floor.
Maybe the middle floor is a sort of mezzanine where there's just a potted plant and some.
So it sounds like a very
lovely view of the garden.
Yeah,
it's anything that's described. If estate agents are describing a building as super quirky and individually designed, stay away.
It's often a sign, though, when those stories start appearing in the press that we're reaching the end of a housing bubble and it's going to be a massive crash. I remember just before the last big property crash, or correction, as they say, there were stories about garages in Kensington going for £250,000, and people were dividing up bedrooms that had previously been a bedroom into 2 bedrooms because property. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes that's a little bit of a lick the finger in the air. Might be time to sell up, basically move into a caravan for a few years and weather the storm. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, as I already live in a caravan, I'm in trouble.
Get a bigger garden.
Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Stephen and Josh, for joining me this evening. Ladies and gentlemen at home, thank you very much for entrusting this part of the evening with us. Or perhaps tomorrow morning, which will be this morning by the time you see it. Either way, Dominic will be here tomorrow night. It's been Headliners. This has been GB News. Thank you and good night.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.